Please prepare yourselves for prayer. Before I get started, I want to ask special intentions for Mr. Butch Ricca, who passed away this week. Mr. Butch is Councilman Lambert's father-in-law. I also want to add our council chairwoman, Ms. Terry Casso, and her husband, Cohen Casso, to our special prayers. Father Jerry Martin, who's the pastor at St. John the Evangelist, was sent to the hospital this morning, waiting to get results back for him. And then obviously, and most importantly, let's keep in our prayers all of our employees and their families who are dealing with COVID-type symptoms, as well as having to deal with the recent rush of quarantine that we're dealing with in our parish at this time. So with that, let us all bow our heads.
Corey, I think Michael wanted to add someone to the list.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael, please do.
No, thank you, Travis. Yeah, Corey, I would like to add the family of Gibson Cardozo. He was a 20-year-old Santa Monica High graduate that was killed in a motorcycle accident. So I'd like us to keep his family in our thoughts and prayers as well.
Oh, certainly, Michael. Thanks for thinking of.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Corey.
Our Father in heaven, please, as you look down upon your children, you keep us wrapped in your arms of love, and you maintain our sense of decency and our sense of respect for each other as we move forward, doing your work, Lord. As it is said often, we are all only human, and you know that we're going to make mistakes, but it's through your guidance and your love, Lord, that we're going to make it through this pandemic, all other issues that face us both as parish officials and as citizens of Ascension Parish. Lord, we ask that you guide us and love us as your children, as you have since the beginning. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're there. We go to the roll call. The honor council person we have missing tonight is Ms. Terry Casso, who's dealing with some illness issues, and we've already said a prayer for her, and we hope for a speedy recovery to Councilman Casso. There's no chair additions tonight. Remind the public we have the public comment signing period. There will be a 30 minutes break so the public can submit their comments.
Presentation and request by Leadership Ascension for additional funding for the Field of Dreams project, temporary appointment to the West Ascension Hospital District Board, adoption of updated Capital Region Area Floodplain Task Force multi-jurisdictional program for public information, resolution to adopt the Ascension Parish multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan update 2020, amended change order number 1 Boone Services LLC MA 1803B, LA 73 turn lanes at Oakland Drive to correct an incorrect original project amount from $684,423.03 to the correct amount of $648,423.03 and an incorrect contract amount to date from $708,616.56 to the correct amount of $673,016.56. Approval of substantial completion for the Highway 930 Coffee Road to LA Highway 42 clearing and grubbing project. Approval of substantial completion LA 73 and Henry Road intersection improvements project MA 1804. Approval of change order number 1 to change the owner's name from Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office to Ascension Parish Government. Does not include adjustments to sum or contract time. Ascension Parish Jail Women's Dormitory Sienna Construction. Resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, the Parish, on Saturday, December 5th, 2020, for the purpose of authorizing the renewal of 2 mill tax on assessed valuation of all property subject to taxation in the parish for a period of 10 years for the purpose of maintaining and supporting the Ascension Parish Public Health Center, including buildings, maintenance expenses, and other related healthcare expenses, and further making application to the State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold the aforesaid election, and further providing for other matters in connection therewith. Approval of master contract for professional services between Ascension Parish Government and SSA Consultants for a study of Ascension Parish Government's efficiency plan. Resolution to publicly censure Councilman Joel Robert for unprofessional and discourteous treatment of a parish employee. Ordinances. Ordinance number 1 to levy millages on the 2020 tax roll on all properties subject to taxation by Ascension Parish Government. Ordinance number 2 to increase the millage rates, but not in excess of the prior year's maximum rates on all taxable property shown on the official assessment roll for the year 2020, and when collected, the revenues from said taxes shall be used only for specific purposes for which said taxes have been levied. An ordinance to amend Chapter 2 Administration, Article 7, Departments of Parish Government, Section 2-121, created of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances adopted by the Ascension Parish Council, to amend previously adopted qualifications and to add Director of Technology. Ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use corridors. Zoning review ID PZ 2334.20, track B2 for Alvin and Nancy Bro, the Warren Paul Bro Irrevocable Living Trust, and Lydia Bro Gutierrez, located on the east side of Highway 73, approximately 1,200 feet north of LA Highway 621. Ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use corridors. Zoning review ID PZ 2335.20, track C1 for Alvin Paul Bro, Warren Paul Bro, and Lydia Bro Gutierrez, located on the east side of LA 73, approximately 1,200 feet north of LA Highway 621. Ordinance to amend the Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17403, Street Requirements, A1, Density Restrictions, to add language in reference to measuring of roads. Ordinance to amend the Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17408, Procedure for Construction, C.1, to add and potable water and electrical power. Ordinance to adopt commercial sewer rates for ACUD number 1. Okay, Travis, we have one caller, Miss Sydney Edmonston, and she's gonna be speaking on 7A through F. It's the ordinances to levy millages on the 2020 tax roll and the ordinance to increase the millage rates.
Okay, you can put it through.
Yes, this is Sydney Edmonston. I would like to speak regarding the public hearing item 7A through F that is currently listed on the agenda. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I have some confusion as to why this item is still listed on the agenda. As earlier today, I was told by Mr. Turner and is currently listed in public forum on Facebook by another council member, Chase Alonso, that this item has been removed from this meeting to the next council meeting. I have concern that this item is still listed and was read as an item to be discussed. I'm not necessarily for or against this item yet. I feel that the citizens have a lot of concern about it and are not aware of this item right now. There's a lot of confusion about tax and the tax rolls going out with the assessor's notifications being mailed, if this is the same as those tax assessors increases going out at the time. And I just feel like this is not the proper time. There needs to be some clarification. So I would just like to request that these be stricken from the agenda, as the citizens were assuming they were going to be removed as we were told.
Councilman, I think it would be appropriate to have that motion made to move those two matters to the Zoom meeting of August 20th at this time. We can move forward.
I'll make a motion that we move it to the meeting of August 20th.
I have a motion by Councilman Lawler to move those amendments to the August 20th virtual council meeting, seconded by Councilman Joe Robert. Is there any objection? With no objection, that motion passes. Senator, are there any other callers?
No.
Hey, Travis, can I just make one comment real quick?
Yes.
Hey, just for the caller, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Just for the caller, just to kind of fill her in a little bit, is that once the agenda was put out with the notification, we could not just remove it from the agenda. We had to actually make a motion in the meeting to move it, and that's why it was not taken off the agenda completely.
Any other comments?
I don't know if I can speak again. Yes, I am aware that of state meeting laws. Typically these items, I don't know, I work for the state of Louisiana. And usually if the council chooses to have things removed, the board chooses to have things removed, it is typically done prior to the entire agenda being read. That is just how things operate at the state level at Louisiana Housing Corporation. So that was my expectation, I guess.
Well, we thank you for your comments, Ms. Edmondson. With that, we'll go to
Thank
agenda
you.
item. With that, we'll go to agenda item number 6, general business 6A. Presentation and request by Leadership Ascension for additional funding for the Field of Dreams project. Ms. Erica Page.
Could somebody turn their phone on silent?
Corey, is there a parish president's report? I mean, I'm sorry, Corey. Travis, I'm looking at the pictures and.
Yeah, I apologize. I skipped the parish president report. So we'll
It's
go back to number 5, the parish president report. I apologize, President.
To me, all plaintiffs' counsel look alike.
Mr. Chairman Turner.
Thank you for that upgrade, Mr. Lawler.
We'll go ahead and get started with the parish president's report. We'll have CAO John Diaz give the report. John, you ready?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, guys? Chairman, members of the council, as always, it's my pleasure. We're going to start tonight's meeting off highlighting some of our parish employees who have advanced their skill sets and career through professional development. Once again, you'll hear us say it over and over again. That is going to be a big push in next year's budget. Make sure we have funding for professional development to build a professional organization. I'm going to start off tonight with Dean Wallace, AKA Stormwater Dean, so it's not to confuse him with our project manager Dean. He's a recent hire who works for the Department of Planning and Development as our stormwater manager, parish stormwater manager. He's a graduate of LSU with a bachelor's degree in coastal environmental science. He has recently obtained his qualified construction stormwater inspection certification and his qualified MS4 stormwater compliance professional certification. So we're excited to have him on board. He's a great guy. If you get ever a chance to get a meeting, he's really fun to talk to. We're also excited to announce that Lisa Weber Curry, who is our Director of Mental Health, has recently received her doctorate in professional counseling with a concentration in family psychology from Mississippi College. Kudos to Lisa. She does a great job and is a great leader there at Mental Health. In the utility section, Gavin Fleming has recently received his level 1 water operation certification. Jason Lashardi and Nathan Wallace are currently enrolled in continuing education classes that are required in order for them to remain a level 4 water operator certification. In our IT department, Jarius Carey has been, who's been with us for 2 years. He comes to us from the school board and has been vital to our IT department. He recently completed the Microsoft Exchange 2016 training, and going forward will be responsible with our parish email system. Information technology, we're excited to see that HR has taken Munis, our ERP system, to the next level. They recently implemented an online job posting module, which allows us to link payroll with recruiting in real time. Obviously, this makes us much more efficient. It has sharpened our ability for our administration, finance, and HR to constantly be in the know as it relates to financial decisions being made. We're also excited that Ascension 21 helped them with a tutorial video so that not only when you go to use the module, you can actually watch a YouTube video on how to actually utilize the application. We're also in the process of moving Brian Martinez, and I talked about him a little bit at the last meeting. We really think this guy's going to take us to a different level. But we recently moved him into the administrative suite where he's going to lead our efforts to develop a data command center. Brian will be in charge of turning our data into information designed to make us more productive and drive efficiencies. We're also excited to announce that the Ascension Parish Office of Homeland Security has coordinated with the school system to supply PPE in preparation for back to school efforts. The OEP delivered 66,000 disposable masks, 26,000 cloth masks, and over 100 thermometers. And lastly, I'll just give you a quick transportation update. We recently met virtually with officials from DOT to discuss the Highway 621, 73, I-10 corridor, as well as potential progress on any I-10 interchanges. As we all know, nothing in government related to road construction happens fast. However, the conversation was initiated by DOTD, which is a good sign. At least that's what we take it as a good sign. It shows that they're genuinely interested in the efforts. I think we are much closer to a solution on the 621, 73, I-10 corridor issue simply because of a function of cost constraints and budget constraints. We think something should move, I don't want to say fast, but sooner rather than later in that area as it relates to a fix. So with that, we'll take any questions. Also, real quick, guys, and I'll let this out there. They're also actively working on building a connector road between Highway 73 and Bluff. And we talked with Eddie Lambert. He worked to get some money and appropriations or in a capital outlay recently. So also we're excited about at least these programs are actually on the books, and there's actual progression along quite well.
President Coach Thomas.
Yes, Mr. Diaz, I heard you mention about the OEP delivering, issuing out thermometers, and there was something else that you mentioned. I couldn't really hear you. What was it?
The disposable mask.
Where was this delivered to?
To the school system, to the central school board.
Oh, to the centralized office?
Yes.
So it wasn't delivered to each and every school, was it?
No, they're the best.
This was just for the centralized office?
No. It was for students, but they are better at distributing these type of commodities to their students more so than us. So we brought it to one central location, let them distribute it based on their priorities.
Okay, the reason I asked that, well, we have a situation. I'll be talking with you at another date, but
Okay.
I'll talk to you another time. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, no problem, man.
Any other questions for Mr. Diaz? Okay, if no one has any further questions, at this time we'll actually go to agenda item 6, general business A. That's the presentation and request by the leadership Ascension for additional funding for the Field of Dreams project. Ms. Erica Page.
Hi, thank you for having us today. I'm Erica Page. Hi there. With me I have Mr. Lance Cohen, Director of Parks and Rec for City of Gonzales. In partnership with the cooperative endeavor agreement that we signed very early on last year with both the Parish of Ascension and the City of Gonzales, upon the field and the park's completion, Mr. Lance and his team will be maintaining that field. So he's been very involved with the construction of the project thus far, and then we'll continue to be going forward. I'm not sure if all of you have had a chance to drive down Irma Boulevard in the last month or two, but it's beautiful. We successfully have completed phase 1. That's a picture of it. It's the only thing missing from that picture that's in place right now is the yellow fence capping along the outfield fence. So if you swing by, that's now in place as well. But otherwise, the picture depicts everything that's included in phase 1. So I want to start off by thanking the council, the parish council, for your commitment last year of $50,000 toward this project. We were able to successfully raise a total of $800,000, which allowed everything you see there to be done, and your $50,000 donation certainly went to that. So I know there was a little hesitancy of, well, if we give this money, will it ever come to life? And I'm happy to report that in less than a year, we were able to do that and make good on our promise to provide the field to the Parish of Ascension. So now we move forward to phase 2. Phase 2 for us and for the community is everything everything outside of the fence line. So you'll see the field entirely completed. It's entirely ADA accessible if a child is in a wheelchair or has a walker or doesn't have a physical disability, but instead may have another type of special need or mental delay. They will be able to all play on this field cumulatively. So here's a picture of what is proposed for phase 2, and I'll kind of walk you through that. What is shadowed out, you'll see our existing field in place. There are 4 specific things that include phase 2, and we truly feel that until the park as a whole is completed, it isn't truly accessible to the community because we have to have restrooms out there being our biggest concern. So along the behind home base and our home plate rather and third baseline, you'll see a concession restroom building. We're calling that our ADA concession restroom pavilion. And in the bottom of the photo, you'll see a quick rendering of that. It's going to have a very large covered pavilion off the front of it, allowing for extra shade and airflow. We'll have some ceiling fans under there. It's going to be very nice. And of course, those with light sensitivity, we want to make sure we have plenty of space for them that allows them to get out of the direct sun. And then you'll also see a picture there in the bottom of the grand entryway. So where the actual rendering shows new sidewalk, that is the side that ties in with the Council on Aging's parking lot. And so our grand entryway will be tied in with that new sidewalk and then going toward the field. So the four things that phase 2 will cover, of course, is that restroom concession pavilion, our grand entryway, additional sidewalk spaces that are needed to tie the entire park in as a whole, and then also the legacy brick path, which we've been raising money for. The one thing, in addition to that, is our video scoreboard in the outfield. These particular games do not have to have true scorekeeping, but we want to be able to offer the video scoreboard so that when these children arrive and their families, every Tuesday night is their World Series. We want them to be able to be highlighted on the video screen with their number and their name and their picture and all that fun stuff to make it extra special for them. So when we complete phase 2, we will truly have the park finished as a whole instead of just the focus of the field. What we are asking for this evening is an additional donation to be allocated directly to phase 2 funding of $70,000.
I'll make the motion.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I said I make a motion.
Unmute. We have a motion by Councilman Robert. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Cagnolati.
if I may, before we get a second, I'm sorry, Councilman Robert, I didn't get a chance to talk with you, but I spoke to most of the councilmen. I've been in communication with Erica and John Diaz in the parish office. And what we've done, this was something that came to finance a while back, but we chose to send it back to administration. They wanted to put some thoughts and ideas to it. So we kicked around the idea. We do have a donation fund. It is limited. And with this request, we feel like it would be appropriate to try to give them another way of raising this money that could even improve over the $70,000 they're requesting. And I'll explain that by saying I spoke to Erica and John, and I've spoken about it. And we're going to propose to pay them, say, $35,000, which is half, and then offer to do a dollar-for-dollar match on the remaining $35,000. For every dollar they can raise through other fundraising, we'll match it up to $35,000 again. And that we're trying to get that done through April 1st of 2021. So with that, if you don't mind, I'd like to make a motion that.
Well, hold on, John. Don't make a motion. Don't make a motion yet. We want to keep one on the table at a time.
Okay.
So, Councilman Robert, are you willing to withdraw your motion? Okay, y'all can hear me still?
Oh, yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, Councilman Robert, did you hear me? Okay.
Robert, your mic is off.
Unmute.
We can't hear you, Joe.
I don't withdraw my motion. I'm okay with no second, but I'll leave my motion to pay the 70 or to donate the 70.
Okay. Do we have a second for Councilman Robert's motion? If there's no second, the motion dies for lack of a second. With that, Mr. Cagnolati, you can make your motion.
Yes, I would. I'd like to make a motion that we commit for $35,000 now to Leadership Ascension Team's Dreams for their All Abilities Ballpark project, with an additional commitment to match dollar for dollar any other donation they could obtain through April 1st of 2021, not to exceed $35,000.
I second that
Do we have
motion.
a second for Councilman Cagnolati's
second.
motion? Second by Councilman Ogeron. Do we have any objections? Comment by Councilman Lawler.
Yeah, certainly not objection. The only thing I'd like to say is I would still ask that the group that's doing this consider extending the right field line, adding more space with this extra money that they may get to allow for baseball and soccer to also be used on these special fields, because it would expand the opportunities for all special needs children more than just baseball and softball, but include flag football, soccer, and lacrosse type things for special needs children. It's not part of the motion, but I would ask them to look into that and speak with the people that are designing this, because I feel that while baseball and softball are extremely important for special needs children and everybody, quite honestly, to make an opportunity for this type of field for everybody and to give them the opportunity to play multiple sports throughout the year would really be beneficial. And if we can raise extra money, if it costs extra money, let us know. But I think the opportunity is here now to expand these fields. Why limit it to 2 sports when we have an opportunity to expand this to multiple sports? But I certainly appreciate everything that's been proposed and where we're going forward on this. So thank you all.
Any other comments? Are there any objections to the motion? If there are no objections to that motion, the motion passes. With that, we'll go to agenda item number 6B. We'll go to agenda item 6B, temporary appointment to the West Ascension Hospital District Board. Councilman Mason.
Thank you, Chair. So the Personnel Committee would like to temporarily appoint a board of directors, the board, West Ascension Hospital Board. We would like to appoint David Dubriel to the board. This is a temporary position until the Personnel Committee can have a time to meet and recommend a full-time position. I asked Mr. O'Neill Parrington to give me a brief synopsis on David's experience. He's the former president of the First National Bank of Donaldsonville. He's a longtime resident of the Hospital Service District, and he has agreed to have served until the Personnel Committee can find a suitable replacement for him. The reason why they're putting him on right now is they have a deal that needs to be handled before our next committee meeting can happen. Motion. So we're just asking for a temporary.
We had a motion by Councilman Robert, and a second by Councilman Thomas. Does Councilman Orgeron have a comment?
Yes.
Councilman Orgeron.
I want to make sure, does this individual plan on applying for the position when it becomes a full-time position, or is he promising that he's just going to sit for this temporary stop?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Mason.
No, he's not going to apply. No, he's not going to apply for the position. He is just filling a spot right now, and then we will look at the applicants that have already applied whenever we have our next meeting in personnel.
Perfect. That's a great answer. Thank you, Michael.
Any other questions? Any objections to the motion? Without any objections, the motion passes.
Thank you.
We'll go to item C, adoption of updated capital region area floodplain task force multi-jurisdictional program for public information. Ms. Schultz? Motion by Councilman Orgeron.
Second.
Second by Councilman Mason. Any objection? With no objection, the motion passes. Item D, resolution to adopt the Ascension Parish multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan updated 2020. Martha Collins.
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Mason. Second by Councilman Cagnalati. Are there any objections? Any questions? With no objections, that motion passes. With that, we go to agenda item 6E, amended change order number 1, Boone Services LLC, MA-18-13-B, Louisiana 73 turn lanes at Oakland Drive to correct an incorrect original project amount from $684,423.03 to the correct amount of $648,423.03, and the incorrect contract amount to date from $708,606.56 to the correct amount of $673,016.56. Jury 2 row.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Cagnolati, seconded by Councilman Mason. Are there any objections? Any questions? With no objection, the motion passes. We go to agenda item 6F, approval of substantial completion for the Highway 930 Causeway Road to Louisiana Highway 42 clearing and grubbing project, Jury 2 row.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Orgeron. Any questions? Any objections? No objections, the motion passes. Item G, approval of substantial completion, LA 73 at Henry Road Inspection Improvement, Project MA 18-04.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Lambert. Are there any questions? Any objections? With no objection, the motion passes. Item H, approval of change order number 1 to change the owner's name from Ascension Parish Sheriff. Who made the motion? I was looking at the, I was reading. Councilman Robert made the motion. There's a second. Second by Councilman Cagnolati.
I've got
Any
one
questions?
question, Chair.
Got a question by Councilman Orgeron.
Good question. I just want to make sure that this is consistent with the rest of the buildings involving the jail, and that the actual owner is Ascension Parish and not the sheriff's office. So as long as it's consistent, I think that's what I just want to get clarification on.
The sheriff operates.
Can you answer that question for us?
The sheriff, the parish owns the jail itself, the building. That's our responsibility.
Right. So essentially, this is consistent with everything else that we have out there.
Yes.
Perfect. That's all. That's all we needed to know. Thank you.
With no objection, that motion passes. Item I is to be read by O'Neill.
A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Ascension, state of Louisiana, the parish, on Saturday, December 5th, 2020, for purpose of authorizing the renewal of a 2 mil tax on assessed valuation of all property situated to subject to taxation in the parish for a period of 10 years for the purpose of maintaining, supporting the Ascension Parish Public Health Center, including buildings, maintenance, expenses, and other related healthcare expenses, and further making application to the State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold aforesaid election, and further providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Cagnolati. Is there, are you seconding it or are you asking a question?
A question.
Second, yeah.
Okay, got a second by Councilman Thomas, question by Dale. I'm sorry, Dale.
So I spoke about this item with John Diaz this morning. I wanted to learn more about it. And it kind of ties into the next item also. So I was going to ask, could I make a substitute motion to defer this to the first election in April? And the reason we would want to do that.
Dale, we need to vote on the first motion first. Then, if it, are you making an objection?
Yeah, I'm making an objection.
Okay, so we will need to vote on the first motion, then we can take up Dale's motion.
Travis, can we have any other additional conversation about this?
Yeah, we'll discuss it before we vote on the initial motion, then we take Dale's.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and finish my statement if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so we were talking about, this is a 2 mil tax from 2 years ago, and it is for the health unit. So we're not saying we don't wanted to happen, but my understanding is this tax goes to December of 2021. So we actually have a lot of time, and part of the next item is SSA coming in and evaluating our health unit, and we have Our Lady of the Lake, I believe, coming in, or maybe St. Elizabeth, somebody said that wrong, even though they may be the same thing now. But yeah, they're going to come in and give us an evaluation of the health unit and tell us if we're efficient. And also my understanding is part of this millage was for the animal shelter, and now there's a dedicated tax for the animal shelter. So, I'm kind of I guess asking for people's support to let the administration have this evaluation done, and then just push it back about 3 or 4 months so they'll have some opportunity to look at, does the millage match what they need in funds? So that's, I don't know if anybody has any comments, but that's my statement.
Councilman Malonzo.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Dal's saying. I think this is a great opportunity for us to see. We've been operating on these 2 mills for a while. We're losing some of those funds with the new dedicated dollars. I think this is the perfect time to see, hey, can we run health on 1.5 mills or 1 mills? Can we be more efficient? And possibly, if we show we can do that, that half a mill or that 1 mill that could be extra that we don't need if we run it more efficiently, that could be money that we could ask the public for to add that to transportation or drainage or recreation. And I think whenever these millage rates, start coming back up for renewal, it'd be a good time to really open up the books and see, hey, does the money match what we need? Do we need more? Do we need less? Can we operate on less and start moving some of these funds to other needed areas? But I just support what Councilman Wagsback was saying as well. Thank you.
Councilman Lawler.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. Do we have a motion by Councilman Wagsback? Is that going to be the next item on the agenda?
We only have one motion. We only have one motion at a time. So Dale hadn't made his motion yet.
Okay, I was just trying to be clear from what I heard. No, I agree with what Councilman Wagsback and Councilman Malonzo said, and I will wait for them to make the proper motion and sit silently for the next couple seconds.
So I know we had the original motion. I think it was by Councilman Cagnolati. Will you withdraw that motion?
Yes, can I make a substitute motion?
Well, hold on. We have Councilman Cagnolati is going to withdraw his motion, but Councilman Wagsback wanted to make a motion to defer it, correct?
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to amend the resolution to defer to the first election in April.
Second.
We got a motion by Councilman Wagsback, second by Councilman Robert. Do we have any questions? Do we have any objections? With no objection, that motion passes. Item J, approval of master contract for professional services between Ascension Parish Government and SSA Consultants for a study of Ascension Parish Government's efficiency plan.
Motion.
Mr. Diaz. Motion by Councilman Robert. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Thomas. Any questions? Councilman Malonzo.
I would like to hear just a little bit from Mr. Diaz, exactly what this contract's going to pertain and what our goals are. I mean, not the whole thing, but just a brief overview.
Well, we're actually have Christelle Slaughter here, so I'm gonna do one better than that. I'll have her speak on it. I think she drove from Baton Rouge. Sentiment, is Christelle there?
Yes.
And while we're waiting for her to come to the mic.
We need everybody to mute
Can
their
ask for everyone to mute when they're not speaking as well?
While we're waiting on Christelle, I'll just tell you, this is phase 2 of the SSA report. This is implementation of a lot of things that they've, concluded in their previous report. So I'm excited about this whole project. Christelle?
Yes. Hello, Christelle Slaughter here. Good to see you, members of the council. Thank you for having me here tonight. I have brought copies without thinking that you all were going to be zooming in, so we'll get these to you electronically so that you can look at them. I'm going to go through the proposed scope of services fairly quickly and then see if there are some questions. The object of the project is not only to implement efficiency recommendations, but also to help build accountability in Ascension Parish government and to bring about sustainable change so that government will continue to be competitive for the parish and be able to continue to provide services that are high quality and low cost to the citizens of Ascension Parish, retain your talented employees, and as they leave or as you grow, to continue to attract new employees. So the purpose of the parish government is a little bit unclear to a lot of the department heads as well as some of their staff members. So one of the first activities would be to help working with you and the parish president to develop a clear mission and vision statement. Where do you want the parish to be in the future, and a set of core values. And when you begin to work on a change project, having a set of core values really then begins to define everything, whether you're talking about a performance management system or you're talking about how a department head needs to make decisions. They need to understand what you want and what are the important factors that they need to consider. So once you've developed a vision that's fairly measurable, then we can do a gap analysis and figure out where we are and where we want to be and what are the things that can get us there. I was listening earlier in the meeting as you were hearing about people who've gone back and gotten certifications, Human Resources who's implemented a module on the ERP system. The parish has made a big investment in technology, and the fact is that that's an important investment that can be added onto. There are tools and techniques now that, quite honestly, citizens expect, and the younger generations, millennials and Generation Z, they expect to be able to interact with you in ways like this, and to have technology where they can have information at their fingertips and their questions answered. So what are some things that Ascension Parish could implement that other parishes or counties around the country have done that could actually be an upfront investment but could really save you manpower in the long run and lower your costs? Looking at tax reserves, fund balances for different departments, and either look to use those to expand services or potentially reprogram those tax dollars with parish priorities if possible. Third objective is to build a more professional and efficient organization, looking at the way that budgets are created, making sure that all department directors really understand what they're accountable for, the amount of money that comes to their department, not just a head count, but also for resources and needed services, and giving them the tools to really be able to ask questions about that and make sure that they're allocating the money on your behalf as well as they possibly can. Professional development is important. Again, heard you talking about that. And we find that organizations, public organizations who invest in their people, because they stay so long and are incented to stay as parish employees for a long time, you really get a payoff on that investment. Employee performance evaluations. Many of you know we started down this road. A good bit of work has been done, but we need a leadership, current leadership, to talk about what the goals are, to be able to modify that and really get that in place for you. And that's really a cornerstone to getting things done. Compensation review for overtime, skill-based pay. If somebody does take their own time to go back and get a certification that actually makes them better at their job. what is their additional compensation for that. You all exist. We're doing some work with St. Charles Parish right now. And Ascension Parish and St. Charles Parish have the biggest competition for employees that we see of all the parishes we work for in Louisiana. You're fighting industry and big industry who can pay skilled craftspeople and talented engineers a whole lot more than you can. So how do you get in that game? How do you keep people fresh? How do you incent new people to come in who want to build their skills and experience and stay with you? And then to come up with department performance measures so that people will be able to see if they're moving the needle. I was contacted, COVID is a funny thing, I was quoted in an article and contacted today by the former head of civil service of the state of Louisiana, who I believe lives in Maryland or Virginia. And we worked with, of all people, the Department of Civil Service at the state level to develop a vision about 20 years ago that now has actually come to fruition. And it was because they came up with specific performance measures for each one of their areas, and they began to measure their progress against that. You don't want to play a game without keeping score. So in government, we have a tendency to think we can't keep score because we don't have a profit motive. But the reality is, every single department can come up with a short dashboard of outcomes and performance measures. Building trust by creating more public engagement, making sure that there's ongoing communications and public awareness of what is going on with each of these projects. And as we begin to move the needle and do better, how can we communicate that? Having better policies and stronger ordinances to do what it is you want to do oftentimes comes from having workshops where people with different perspectives come in and begin to talk about what are the potential unintended consequences of this policy or of this ordinance before you as a council take action on it or a department takes action on it, only to find out later, gee, we didn't realize that it was going to have that consequence. So how can we get that information down really into the rank and file of the department and the people who are actually interfacing with our citizens so that we can make better decisions and have better processes. Public meetings in each council district to talk about what's being changed, what's going on, engaging the public in this, and then finally to try and provide some financial transparency. It's very common now. A lot of the larger parishes, you can simply go online and click and find out budgets and compensation and what's going on with the citizens' dollars. So again, driving accountability, creating an opportunity for public engagement, and really reducing the fear that government is doing something with our tax dollars. We really don't know where they're going. So with that, I'll pause and see if there's some questions from council members.
I think President Whitmore has a question.
No, just a comment, Chairman Turner. We're super excited about this study. This is something that we had Christelle come in on my transition team, and we just had a room full of questions and excitement about this first study. And so we're really looking forward to phase 2 here and where we can go ahead and start initiating some of these suggestions and doing a little deeper dive than what happened before in the previous administration. So we're really looking forward to the second phase with SSA and how it's going to deliver the overall objective for all of us, which is more efficient, more productive government services for the people that we serve. So we're super excited about it and looking forward to it. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Parish President. Councilman Cagnolati.
Yeah, just a quick question for Christelle. Christelle, if you don't mind, I looked at the contract and it's the figure I saw was $240,000, $120,000 to you guys, and $120,000 to some subs that you guys are going to bring in with some expertise. What are the deliverables that we're going to see as a result of this work and this contract?
Excellent question. Thank you, Councilman Cagnolati. The deliverables from the scope of services that we have talked about will include everything from actual zero-based budgets for each department, the mission, vision, values, with the vision being measurable, employee performance evaluations, and compensation review for skill-based pay, as well as a series of workshops and clarity around policies, proposed policies, and ordinances, obviously planning and is a big issue here, and some of the subcontractor dollars that are put in there are for things like looking at what other communities have done, finding people who have implemented whatever it is, policies, programs that had problems that were similar to yours that have maybe overcome them and done a better job. We want to go back in and look from an efficiency standpoint at some of the departments. So bringing in, we've worked with mental health. We think that, you know, there's some opportunities because of COVID. You probably do have some more citizens who could use mental health services. Where are your opportunities? What do we need to push out to people? I think that our firm did a very good job of laying a foundation for that, but there is more to be done there. And then certainly implementing the performance management system, I think, is going to be important for you to be able to drive accountability, but also reward some of the people who are doing a good job. Because if you want to create change and accountability, then we got to divide the people who are really doing a great job for you from those who are not. So I hope that that's a good list, and I'm happy to put that in writing for you.
Well, that's fine. I thank you for your comments. Just when we speak efficiency, anytime we can make improvements, you got to invest in making those improvements. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you.
Councilman Lawler.
Thank you, Christelle. Yeah, this is a great opportunity, I believe, to move forward in what we've done in the past to provide our employees with the opportunity to, I guess, extend their work lives and their opportunities within the parish, because it is hard to hire people within the parish when we are competing against other entities. But if we can give them the training and the opportunity, I keep using the word opportunity a lot, but to move forward within Ascension Parish, and also to let our employees know that they are valued and that they're serving not just the employees of the parish and the council and the administration, but they are serving everyone in the parish. I think our employees need to know that they are valued by us, by the administration, and everybody involved. So I think, as I say, I think y'all going to do a great job for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that.
Does anyone else have a question? Councilman Maloso.
Oh, yeah, just real quick. I also excited about it. A lot of private companies, entities, every 5, 6, 7 years, they do a self-survey themselves, and they reorganize and they adapt as needed. And I know we've kind of been on a straight and narrow for a long time. You know, we've always had one person do this job and so on. So this is a great job to see if and there's a chance. Look, over the last 4 or 5 years, our employee log and our payroll has skyrocketed. You know, maybe we can be getting a lot more out of the tax dollars that we receive. So I'm excited about it as well. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Christelle.
Thank you, Councilman. And you did remind me of another deliverable. So Councilman Cagnolotti, we'd like to suggest an employee survey as a baseline so that you can see how engaged people feel, because as Councilman Maloso just said, when people feel committed, they give you a lot more productivity. So we'd like to see that too. I'm sorry, Councilman Lambert, I didn't mean to jump in.
Councilman Lambert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, what I'd like to, you know, to get out of this from phase 1, we're going into phase 2. You know, I'm glad you mentioned the COVID. how is, and we're going to be working into the pay because, our employees now are working in hazardous conditions. How is she going to address this? And, I'd like to know, the second phase, is that's going to finish up what the, I guess what we was, intended to get to at the end of this tunnel here, because, the price I'm seeing here, we up a pretty bit, significant amount of money. And I'd like to know the end result here, because this is phase 2, and I want to make sure that this is finishing up. And that was directed to Mr. Cresdell.
Okay, Councilman, thank you. I think that's a very valid question, and I think that there is a lot of work to be done in phase 2 to get to where you need to be to move forward. So it's a lot of detailed work. It's a lot of working directly with department directors. And although we have done different projects with you before, they've really been at a higher level. Compensation studies and even the performance management study. We worked with a small group of employees in a pilot program. This really needs to be down to the frontline employees. And when you talk about getting people to feel engaged and understanding their jobs, and you're right, seeing them working in hazardous conditions, you all need to know what's really going on so that you can help make the decisions that you need to put the resources where you need to put them.
Question by Councilman Orgeron.
Yes, and this question is directed both towards our CAO, Mr. Diaz, and our chair of our personnel committee. I'm hoping that we can work together with the personnel committee and Ms. Cristel to fully function and fully understand this whole process so that we can assist the administration going forward. So with that being said, is there anything in this master contract that calls for monthly coordinated communications with the personnel committee so that we can effectively assist with handling this matter?
Councilman Turner, could
I see President Whitmore and CAO Diaz want to speak. Which one of y'all want to go first?
Let Diaz go first. I'll finish.
Two things. Dempsey, to your point, the first scope I saw in Our Lady of the Lakes proposal was for them to come in and build us a medical emergency plan. Man, we operate like clockwork in a weather emergency, but a medical emergency is radically different. So that's the one thing that they have in their scope. To Councilman Orgeron's comments, this is honestly the whole beauty in this whole process is this whole process will only be facilitated by SSA. It will be led by department heads. Our whole point is if we're going to, substantially change and concrete change into our processes, these solutions have got to come from our frontline soldiers. It's got to come from our department heads. The whole process of self-discovery is just amazing. So to me, that's the whole beauty of this thing. And there's workshops. We're going to start having policy workshops where we bring public works in with planning. Because, I remember the first weekend I spent time with Ron Savoy, we were going through a subdivision and I'm looking at all the beautiful houses. And I looked at Ron, he's sweating buckshot. I was like, Ron, what's wrong? He said, John, you see these beautiful houses. I see drainage problems. I see a covered system that's about to collapse. I see millions of dollars worth of expenditures. And so what we want to do is try to bring all these departments together so that one department can see what problems it's causing for other departments and we can, affect change in that way. So there will be a lot more collaboration.
President Whitmore.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, a lot and some of this original and phase 1 study, some of these items have been addressed by the previous council. So there has been some action on some of these items. When I met with a lot of parish employees in the first few months, and because this report was given to us in the transition team, I had the privilege of doing some deep dive. They didn't feel like they had a great opportunity down at the ground level to talk about many of the items that they felt important to them. And so I think this is a deeper dive. It's going down into these departments, talking to these employees. How do we address morale? And the only way you can do that is to get with these individual employees and talk to them and ask them those important questions and get that feedback. So this is going to be a little deeper dive, and we're encouraged to hear from our employees, because I simply cannot myself interview over 550 employees. And we just need SSA's help to not only recognize morale, but efficiencies and productivity, and go to y'all, because we're going to need action from this council. So yeah, it's very important that we have y'all in this process, talk about it, because y'all going to be a part of this. Just like at the end of last year, some of these items Benny Johnson had put forth, and a lot of these items have been approved, and some other action taken in prior years based on that first study. So yeah, we're looking forward, and I think we're all going to benefit from this as we move forward, and kind of peel back the layers of the onion here, and get a little deeper into parish government and how we can make it better. Thanks.
Good. And again, if I could, Mr. Turner, I appreciate that, Mr. President, Mr. Diaz, and I want to thank you guys for being willing to cooperate with the Personnel Committee to get these things done so that we can all work together. Thank you much.
Councilman Mason.
Corey said what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Councilman
Orgeron,
we would look forward to working with the Personnel Committee. I think that would be a great sounding board. So thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, with no question, did anybody make a motion? I don't think we had a motion.
Yeah, we had a motion.
Second. We had one already?
Joe made a motion.
Okay, and we had a second. Any objection? Any objection? No objection, the motion passes. With that, we go to agenda item K6K, resolution to publicly censor Councilman Joe Robert for unprofessional and discourteous treatment of a parish employee.
Motion.
Got a motion by Councilman Lawler.
I second.
Second by Councilman Robert. Any objection? No objection, that motion passes. Go to item number 7, public hearing ordinance. Councilman Robert.
If I could have a second for the one before, Chairman. I
Yes,
just wanted to, thank you. I just wanted to publicly say, Cinnamon, I am from the bottom of my heart sorry. It would never happen again. It was inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, Mr. Robert. Okay, with that, we'll go to item number 7, public hearing ordinance, legal counsel. (7A) reading of the ordinance, number 1, to levy millages to the 2020 tax roll on all property subject to taxation by Ascension Parish government.
Yes, that matter has been
Travis, we
moved.
moved,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we did move that.
That has been moved to the next meeting to be held at a Zoom meeting of August 20th.
Yes.
The next one is
Yeah, that should cover
public
7A through
hearing.
7F.
Sir?
Go ahead on there. Go ahead on there.
The next one is just, I want to make it clear for the legislative auditor's records. The item 2 is a public hearing to consider an ordinance levying millages on the 2020 tax roll on all property subject to taxation by Ascension Parish. That has been moved by a previous motion to the Zoom hearing of August 20th of 2020. Now we'll go to the next one. Number 3 is ordinance. That's already been done. We've already hit the motions. I just want to make sure clear for the record, so we'll have that in our records. All right.
we should be picking up on 7G, right?
This is on G. Yes, sir. Reading to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 7, Departments, Parish Government, Sections 2-121, created of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances adopted by the Ascension Parish Council to amend previously adopt a qualification to add Director of Technology. Purposes to amend Chapter 2, Article 7, Departments of Parish Government, Section 2-121, created of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances adopted by Ascension Parish Council to include additional departments and job qualifications for ratified personnel. Whereas the Parish of Ascension, through the Ascension Parish Council in the lawful session, passed an ordinance designating positions to be ratified by the Parish Council. Whereas the original ordinance established a uniform system promoting and classifying Ascension Parish personnel. Whereas the plan was last amended on November 7, 2019, is in need of further revision. Now therefore be it ordained, the Ascension Parish Council does hereby amend the established qualifications for ratified positions attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A. This ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance had been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing. Second by Councilman Cagnolati. Motion to close by Councilman Cagnolati. Motion to close by Councilman Cagnolati.
We don't need to open and close the public hearing. We've already.
The public hearings have already been held, so.
Motion to move the ordinance.
Second. Motion to move the ordinance by Councilman Cagnolati, seconded by Councilman Mason.
Exception.
Got it.
Exception in discussion.
Go ahead, Councilman Orgeron.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I've read through this proposed ordinance, and I recognize that they're going to be that the intentions are to make changes to previously determined definitions of certain positions and to add the Director of Technology. I recall that we had a council meeting in Donaldsonville a few months back where we attempted to bring forth the position of a council auditor, and was advised at that meeting that any new positions that are being proposed and any changes to current definitions, employee definitions, should first go through the Personnel Committee. And I believe it was a unanimous vote at that time that everything be sent to the Personnel Committee. With that being the case, I believe that that's where this matter should be. Personnel Committee has not had the opportunity to review this, to go over this matter, and I think that's, I think bringing it straight to the full council without letting it be vetted is a hypocrisy to what was done back in May. So with that being the case, I'm urging my fellow council members to remain consistent and have this matter first be heard at the Personnel Committee, which I do believe we have a meeting temporarily scheduled for later this month. So it'd be a perfect time to have it and hold it.
Is that a motion to refer this back to personnel?
It's a motion to refer it back if that's proper timing with Mr. Turner.
Didn't we have a motion on the table already?
We have a motion on the table now that has to be voted on first. Unless they're going to withdraw that motion, then if not, it needs to be voted on first.
I'll make a substitute motion that we send that back to personnel.
And I would second that.
I think we still have the first motion that said it has to be addressed first. So I think Councilman Cagnolati made the initial motion.
I second the original motion. Yeah, Councilman Cagnolati made it. I'm the second.
So Councilman Cagnolati, you're willing to withdraw that motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that motion has been withdrawn, so we'll take up Councilman Lawler's motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Orgeron. Do we have any questions? Do we have any? Councilman Malauza?
Yeah, I was under the impression that we were trying to right a ship from that same meeting in Donaldsonville that we're talking about, because whenever we passed this current one right here, I was under the impression that we had passed the proposed one, and that some of this language in here, which we didn't find out later until we were corrected or whatnot. So are we proposing that all new ratified positions are going to go through the Personnel Committee from now on?
I believe that's what was discussed at the May meeting. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I make a substitute motion on the Lawler's, Councilman Lawler's motion, since the original motion was withdrawn, to revert to the original motion and remove the language.
So, I know we have one motion on the table now. I guess let's try to do that one first.
You have one substitute motion, and I'm making another substitute motion.
Okay, well, let's deal with the first one we have first then.
The first motion was to change the motion.
Correct.
And I would like to revert to the original motion and just add, after careful consideration, after the first sentence.
Councilman Turner, will there be time for discussion on this matter?
Yes. And before we make any more motions on these substitute motions, Mr. Diaz, if you have something to say, if you go ahead and say it now.
Yeah, this is nothing more than cleaning up language that was added, probably 2 or 3 months ago. The only change to this ordinance compared to the one that we've already voted on twice is that Chairwoman Casso asked that we add Director of Information and Technology as a ratified position. This corrects the language. There was an amendment proposed at one of the meetings where it was explained to us that X, Y, and Z were going to be, that it did X, Y, and Z when it really did X, Y, and Z and 1, 2, and 3. And so this cleans that language up, and we've discussed this.
Councilman Mason?
Yeah, I have to agree with Mr. Diaz. That was my understanding as well, is that Chairwoman Casso only wanted to make this a ratified position. We're not adding a new position. We're just making this position ratifiable, which is why I didn't deem it necessary to go through personnel. That's why the parish compliance officer, we wanted to go through personnel because that was adding a new position. So that's why I thought it was okay, because this is already a position. We were just going to make it a ratified by council position. That's all.
Councilman Ogeron?
The issue, Chairman, the issue here is the definition and the description of what the position will be and the qualifications for those positions. It's apparent that what's taken place throughout history in the parish is we hire someone and then we create a description that matches their qualifications. And I believe we're about to spend $250,000 with SSA consultants. That's going to tell us that that's not the way to do it. We need to get qualified individuals. We need to look at what those qualifications should be, and then we hire those individuals based upon those qualifications. If this is a situation where a director of technology, and no one's questioning the capabilities of our director of technology, but it's making sure that we as a legislative body are satisfied that the descriptions for these positions meet those best hiring practices that we keep preaching about. And so it's not just about director of technology, it's about the changes that are being made into the 2 positions that were added to the ratified positions back in May. And considering that's the case, I really believe that it needs to be vetted in personnel and then get moved back to the council once that situation gets cleared up. So I appreciate Mr. Diaz's comments, but it's more than just the director of technology. It's making sure that we're following the best hiring practices. And it could be that we are, but we need to make sure that that's the case.
Councilman Malonzo?
Yeah, so the motion that's on the table to send this back to personnel, is that just to review the qualifications for the IT, or is it everything in this proposed ordinance? Because we have a whole paragraph that we're changing from qualifications on the planning and facilities maintenance director that was passed back in May. We're changing those requirements.
Actually, if you look at it, we're actually changing the title of that position as well. And so that's why I think it really needs to go to personnel to be vetted.
Yeah, but what we propose is.
Councilman Malonzo?
Sorry, I think I was walking on somebody. I apologize. But the language that's being proposed right now, isn't that the language that was proposed back in April or May and then we had another ordinance I think Mr. Ogeron gave us that night, and that's what ended up getting passed, right? So we're trying to fix that from that night?
No, that is not what happened.
No. What was submitted to, and again, Chairman, may I answer that question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What was presented to us and what was presented to me to prepare was take a look at these positions and give us a definition or a description of the qualifications. Back then, I went to salary.com. I'll be honest with you. I'm not an expert at it. I went to salary.com and I came up with, this is the position we're looking to fulfill. This is what the best qualifications are. And that's what was put on the document. At this stage, if we're going to make those changes, then I think we need to purely vet out whether or not the changes that are being proposed by the administration are consistent with best hiring practices. I don't think it's going to affect anybody's jobs. I just think going forward, we need to make sure that we have that practice in place and that we're moving forward in the right direction.
John?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is, now going back to what Chase mentioned earlier, the job description we originally proposed was X, and the amendment that proposed changed it. And just to cut through the chase, the proposed amendment disqualified Ricky Compton, who might single-handedly be the best employee we have. Like when you talk about facilities management, when he was at Breck, just Breck alone manages more facilities, a bigger fleet than we do. He brings so much knowledge and skill and connections. He cuts through a lot of the BS that we have to deal with when we're trying to find new ordinances and new rules. This would just delay the inevitable. And so I don't get it during the COVID. The whole reason this didn't go to personnel in the first place was we had to make special provision to get things, with COVID altering schedules. And I just don't get why we can't just move forward with this.
Let me ask, I want to ask a quick question to Michael Mason. Do you want to bring this back to personnel, or are you fine with it being here?
No, I don't think it needs to go back to personnel. I think that we are ready as a council to make this decision tonight. I think that, like I said, because we're just changing they make it a ratifiable position for the director of technology, and like what Mr. Diaz just spoke about, I think we're going to be okay making this decision tonight. I think kicking it back will only delay this process even further, and I will work with Councilman Ogeron for sure, going and adding positions and making sure that all of the job descriptions going forward will absolutely be by the book, and we'll even work with admin to make sure that that is what indeed they want.
I see you, Councilman Laws. I'm just going to ask Corey a quick question. Do you think that's something you can live with, Corey?
What is that?
What the proposal Mike's making, is that something that you can deal with?
I can deal with pretty much anything. I'm part of this 11-person board, The issue I have is we keep flip-flopping, and all of us who got elected into this position newly, including the administration, were complaining about the political hires. And I think the whole purpose behind giving these descriptions is to ensure the public that we're not political hiring, that we're actually going forward and thinking through this process. And I think that was a good conversation that we had back in May when we discussed this. Before we go forward with this, let's make sure we put things in order. Let's go through the committee. Let's draft it in the committee, and then let's bring it forth to the full council. But it seems like what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. It seems like what we're doing is, there's certain items that we're just going to slide through, and because it's a nice guy, and they are nice guys, but and it's not about an individual, it's about the process. And I really think if we're gonna forego the process, then we're asking for trouble. And I'll bet you anything, if we bring Ms. Pastel back up there, she would tell us that what I'm suggesting is the right thing to do. Let's not reverse engineer the definitions of our personnel. Let's put them in place and then go forward.
I'm just gonna go in order that I saw the hands. I could be wrong. I seen Councilman Lawler, John Cagney, John Diaz, John Cagney, Joe Robert, and Chase. So I'm gonna go in that order. So let's take Aaron first.
Thank you, Chairman Count. Thank you, Chairman Turner. I almost said Casso. Trying to fix that. Y'all don't look alike. She get really mad at me. No, I'm having some second thoughts about my second on this. I think that there are some issues that we need to review with this. You know, we had a compliance officer too that we're supposed to be moving forward on, that the administration said that they were 100% behind, and I'm not sure that we're moving that direction. I don't know if this is the same thing right here. I mean, I do know it's not the same thing. This seems to be an opportunity to fix some past problems that we may have incidentally passed in the past that we were not supposed to. So I think I can live with this where we're going, but the concern is that we're also not seem to be fulfilling our past promises that we move forward with the compliance officer. I think that's very important because I know that all of us have seen situations where compliance has not been upheld with what our laws are. So we need to follow through with that. At this moment, I'm going to withdraw my second, but we certainly need to move forward with a compliance officer as has been promised before. And I'll leave it at that.
Actually, Mr. Lawler, it was your motion.
Hold on. Thank you. Everybody wants to talk. I see President Quinn.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, Councilman Lawler withdrew his motion. It said John Diaz hand was up next. So John.
Yes, I just wanted to say, Councilman Turner, is that we didn't slide anything through. This was the process we decided during the COVID of how we would go about it. So we didn't go to personnel for the simple fact that at that point we had to make a lot of different provisions. So this was not an attempt to slide anything through. It got a full, thorough debate in Dawsonville. We discussed it, and so this wasn't, any under the table type process. This was very public. It was discussed. It was voted on, and so it is what it is.
Councilman Cagney.
Yeah, I appreciate Michael's comments because I think he freshened my memory. That goes with age. But no, I think Councilwoman Chair Caso had made that comment that she was just trying to create the Director of Technology as being a ratified position. And I think that's where we were going with this, and I think Michael was okay with it. At the time, I agreed, and I still do now. That's the purpose of this, so what we're doing here and discussing here tonight.
Councilman Robert.
Yes, I have a question about the process here, and obviously I'm incorrect, but I'd like you to explain it to me. From what I understand, a substitute motion was made from the motion on the agenda by Councilman Lawler. It was seconded. I then made a second substitute motion, and I added under careful consideration to the last sentence. If I have a second on that, that should be the motion up to vote. Am I not correct?
Senator, can you clarify exactly what motion was up front now? And Joel, I was just letting everybody ask their questions at this point before we voted on the motion.
And that's my question. It's just from before, because I already put up the substitute motions after this first motion was seconded, after he withdrew his original motion. So I feel like the substitute motion that I put up should be up.
You had an original motion, and then you had a substitute motion by Aaron to send it to personnel, which was seconded. You can't have more than one substitute motion on the floor at a time.
Well, that was the only substitute
motion.
So
that was the only substitute motion.
Well, it sounded like we had two, one from Aaron and one from Councilman Rubin. So I'm gonna let Councilman Malonzo ask this question, and President Whitmore to address those motions. So Chase.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one time. I pulled up the agenda, from that May meeting, and the language being presented here tonight outside of the IT director was what was proposed that night. the language that we're deleting is what Councilman Ogeron brought to us that night and what was passed through. And I mean, the only difference between the language that night and tonight is adding the IT director and those qualifications. And I don't know what y'all are doing with motions. Motions are everywhere, so we have to figure that out.
We were trying to keep them under control, Chase, but
everybody gets a motion.
President.
Okay, so, of course, I'd like to move forward with this, but just to touch base on the compliance officer issue, as we discussed in Donaldsonville, the council cannot direct any employee. So it was talked about hiring a compliance, which I have zero problem with. If you want information, you ask for it. Completely transparent. If a compliance person or a firm is going to come in and ask for something, all I'm going to do is get it for them, shoot it to the council, give it to them so that they can produce it for you again. I don't sign anything unless legal or the council approves it, which was a one-time item of confusion. We've gotten past that. So whatever you're choosing to do here with the compliance thing is up to y'all. I'm just telling you that for the Donaldsonville meeting, it was talked about bringing a firm in because the council cannot direct a parish employee as per the home rule charter. That's all I got. Thanks.
Councilman Lawler, then Councilman Mason, then Councilman Ogeron. Councilman Lawler?
I'm going to pass right now.
Councilman Mason?
Yes, we are going to talk about the parish compliance officer and personnel. That'll be at our next meeting for sure. I'm sure Councilman Ogeron, that will be on the agenda, so we'll make sure to discuss that. I would like to offer Councilman Ogeron, if we can let SSA come in and do the job descriptions, can we work with them on the job descriptions there? And kind of, since we're paying them, let them do the grunt work, and then we can review it as a personnel committee, and then kind of, if there's any changes or anything we see necessary, we can go forward that way to ensure best hiring practices are followed.
Councilman Ogeron?
Mr. Mason, that's a great idea. And that's sort of where I was trying to direct this to. I want to understanding that once we go through this process with SSA, the administration will be cooperative with us in redefining and providing more accurate and best hiring practice descriptions for these employees. And so I believe if we're paying these folks this much money, I'm pretty sure the administration is going to agree to cooperate with us. But sadly, I do have to address something with what the parish president just said. And it deals with if we wanted documents and talking about transparency. And with all due respect, Mr. President, I'm still waiting from a request back in February for documents regarding sewer, your sewer proposals. I'm waiting for a request from back in June regarding the PUA and the water system and the equipment that we have and the assets that we have. And sadly, you know, I mean, I hear you, and I believe you're trying to do these things and cooperate, but I'm still not getting the documentation I'm asking for. And that's why we feel that there's a necessity to put somebody up there so that they can go and get the information that we, as part-time civil servants, are not capable of getting. And so that's what we're looking for. So as long as we can get that cooperation, I think we're going to be in a good spot. But just for the record, Mr. Turner, I withdraw any objections that I may have had, and I'm in total agreement with moving the definition that we have in GH and I forward. So I will not object any further to that ordinance if you want to go forward with the vote.
All right, I see President Quimble wants to speak. I'm going to let him speak before we start moving forward on the motions.
Yes, as far as the sewer is concerned, we've had Zoom meetings, Councilman Ogeron, where you have plenty of time, but you want the information that's not relevant to anything that we're currently doing as per the last Zoom meeting that we had. And so I'm trying to figure out why that's a circumstance. And from what I understand, that all that information has been provided to you. So I need specifics on exactly what has not been provided so that I can get that to you. Because to my knowledge, all that's been given. And and any information that you have wanted. I see no emails stating that you haven't received anything in the past couple months or anything. So if you do bring this up in a public meeting and stress to the public that I'm withholding information, yeah, I'm gonna kind of take that personal, because I'm not. I'm not. So if you need anything, please put it in an email and request it.
Okay. I think we'll take the motions up now. Cinnamon, what substitute motion is up at this exact point?
I think they were both withdrawn, Travis. Is that correct?
Okay.
No?
I would like to make a motion.
Joel said he didn't withdraw.
So Joe's not withdrawing his motion. So Cinnamon, could you read Joe's motion so everybody can know exactly what we're about to vote on?
It was, I don't even have it, Travis.
I just want to add, after careful consideration to the first sentence.
Okay. Do we have a second to Joe's motion?
What's the motion?
Is Joe's motion to pass the ordinance as proposed on the agenda?
No, he's
only adding after careful consideration at the first sentence. Yes, that's my motion. Just like the agenda.
Okay. All right, I second that.
Okay, we have a second from Councilman Malonzo. Do we have any objections? With no objection, that motion passes. With that, we should be going to agenda item 7H. The public hearing to consider an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administrative Article 7, Department of Parish Government, Section 2-121, created the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances adopted by the Ascension Parish Council to amend previously adopted qualifications and data Director of Technology.
That's the one we just did.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're ayed, and I apologize. The ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Administrative 7, Departments of Parish Government, Section 2121.
No, Travis, we voted on that.
We're on J.
We're on J.
We're on J. Okay, J. Reading of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use corridor to MU2, zoning review ID PZ-2334.2, track B-2 for Alvin and Nancy Bro, the Warren Paul Bro Irrevocable Living Trust, and Lydia Bro Touré, located on the east side of Highway 73, approximately 1,200 feet north of LA Highway 621.
This ordinance amends the official zoning designation track B2 Bro property per attached legal description for medium intensity residential RM to mixed use 2 MU2. This rezone is identified as zoning ID PZ-2334.20, whereas the Ascension Parish local government subdivision is defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body over zoning and regulations within this jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4th, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Whereas the official zoning map of Ascension Parish was last adopted on March 8, 2016. Whereas the Parish Council reserves the authority to make changes to the official zoning map by ordinance. Whereas this request has been processed in compliance with the procedures set forth, be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the official zoning map of Ascension Parish is amended to reflect the property identified as Exhibit A as mixed use 2 as the official zoning designation. In the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the remaining portions of the ordinance. This ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The exhibits are the legal description, the plat map, the aerial zoning map. This ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion.
Move the ordinance.
Motion moved by Councilman Lambert. Second by Councilman Cagnolati. Any objection?
Motion to move the ordinance.
Motion to move the ordinance by Councilman Cagnolati.
Second.
Second by Councilman Mason. Any objections? With no objection, the ordinance passes. For agenda item P, reading of an ordinance to the Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4.
We're going to M. We got to go to M.
Ms. M, reading of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use corridors to MU2 zoning review ID PZ-2335.2 track C1 for Alvin Paul Bro, Juan Paul Bro, and Lydia Bro Gutierrez, located on the east side of LA 73, approximately 1,200 feet north of LA Highway 621.
This ordinance amends the official zoning designation of tract C1 Borough property per attached legal description from medium intensity residential to mixed use 2. This rezone is identified as zoning review ID PZ 2335.20. Whereas the Ascension Parish local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over the zoning and regulations within the jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4th, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Whereas the official zoning map for Ascension Parish was last adopted on March 8, 2016. Whereas the Parish Council reserves the authority to make changes to the official zoning map by ordinance, this request has been processed in compliance with procedures set forth. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the official zoning map of Ascension Parish, Louisiana is amended to reflect the property identified as Exhibit A as mixed use 2 as the official zoning designation. In the event that any portion of the ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions and shall not affect the remaining portions of the ordinance. This ordinance shall be in full effect as submitted by law. The exhibits are the legal description, the plat map, the aerial zoning map. This ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to adopt the ordinance.
Motion to move the ordinance by Councilman Mason, second by Councilman John Cagnolati. Need a motion to move?
Motion to move.
Motion to move the ordinance by Councilman Cagnolati.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lambert. No objection, that motion passes. With that, we go to agenda item P, reading of our ordinance to the Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Sections 17-4032, Street Requirements, A.1.A, Density Restrictions to add language in reference to the measuring of roads.
To amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4032, Street Requirements. Whereas the Ascension Parish local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body over zoning regulations within the jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter adopted May 3rd, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4032, A1A, is amended as follows, as more fully described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of the ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent. Provisions shall not affect the validity of remaining portions of the ordinance. The ordinance shall be given full effect as submitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
We need a motion, gentlemen.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Robert, second by Councilman Lawson. Motion to move by Councilman Lawson, second by Councilman Cagnolati. No objection. The motion moves. The ordinance book passes. So then we go to agenda item F, reading of our ordinance to amend the Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Sections 17-408, Procedure for Construction, C.1 to add and portable water and electric power.
To amend the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-408, Procedure for Construction, C, Acceptance of Improvements and Posting of Maintenance Bond. Whereas the Ascension Parish local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body over the zoning and regulations within the jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process or manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17408, Procedure for Construction, C, acceptance of improvements and posting of maintenance bond is amended as more fully described in Exhibit A, attached to and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of that ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, independent provisions and shall not affect the validity of remaining portions of the ordinance. The ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to move the ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mason, second by Councilman Cagnolati. That the motion moves passes. Motion by Councilman Cagnolati to move the ordinance.
Second.
Second by Councilman Mason, no objections. The ordinance passes. Go to B, reading of ordinance to adopt commercial sewer rates for ACU D1, number 1.
To amend Chapter 18, political subdivisions, autonomous boards, commissions, and authorities, Article 11, Consolidated Utility District Division 2, General Sewer Ordinance, Subdivision 1, General Section 18, 115.6, fees and charges to establish commercial sewer rates for Ascension Consolidated Utility District number 1, ACUD number 1, whereas ACUD number 1 has never established sewer user rates. Whereas through an operating agreement dated December 12, 2012, the Board of ACUD number 1 delegated the operations of ACUD number 1 to the Ascension Parish President and the Ascension Parish Council. Whereas ACUD number 1 needs to establish sewer user rates to cover the costs and expenses generated by sewer services provided to commercial customers in ACUD number 1. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that Chapter 18, political subdivisions, autonomous boards, commissions, and authorities, Article 11, Consolidated Utilities District Division 2, General Sewer Ordinance, Subdivision 1, General Section 18, 156.6, fees and charges is hereby amended to implement sewer user fees for commercial customers of ACUD number 1 is more fully described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions, shall not affect the validity of remaining portions of the ordinance. This ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Mason, second by Councilman Thomas. No objection, the ordinance passes. With that, we'll go to agenda item number 8.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned by Councilman Cagnolati.
Second.
Second by Councilman Wagensback. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Travis. Good job.
Please
Good job,
note,
Travis.
the meeting is no longer being recorded.
Thank you, Travis. Great job.
I'm going to do better with keeping count of those numbers, though, those letters.
Yeah, good.
All right, have a good evening.
Take care.